Some men are born with the world on their shoulders. Others, like Daniel, have it placed there piece by piece. Each morning, Daniel woke to the weight of bills, a dead-end job, and a face in the mirror he barely recognized. Hope felt like a memory, and the city's energy only made his isolation sharper. He moved through crowds like a ghost, watching life happen to everyone else. His apartment was just a place to store his exhaustion. The car became his sanctuary, a place to be invisible. Friends offered hollow advice. Just be positive. But they couldn't see the invisible chains holding him down. Every call from a creditor was a reminder of his failures. Each setback felt monumental. Daniel was tired, not just from lack of sleep, but from a deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. He was surrounded by people, yet utterly alone. The world spun on, but Daniel felt stuck, fighting a battle he was sure he'd lose. He wondered if he'd ever feel light again. Daniel's days blurred together. Work, worry, and weariness. At the office, he wore a mask of competence, hiding the turmoil inside. Nights were the hardest. Sleep brought no relief, only more anxiety. He wandered empty streets, finding comfort in the city's midnight silence. His social life faded. Isolation became both his fortress and his prison. He convinced himself he was better off alone. But the loneliness was a constant ache. The world was noisy, but Daniel lived in silence. He had forgotten the sound of his own laughter. He was simply existing, not living. Every man hits a wall. For Daniel, it was a letter threatening to take away his last refuge. That night, he drove aimlessly, escaping the city's lights, letting the darkness swallow him. Alone on a deserted highway, he finally let himself feel everything. Anger, fear, shame, sadness. The thought of giving up crept in, promising escape. For a moment, he considered letting go. But in the depths of despair, a stubborn spark flickered. A memory, a smile, a primal urge to survive. He looked up at the stars, realizing his problems were small in the vast universe. He was still here, still breathing. That didn't solve anything, but it changed something. If he was going down, it wouldn't be tonight. He decided to fight, even if it was just for one more day. Sometimes survival is the bravest choice, and that night, Daniel chose to survive. The sun rose, and Daniel was there to see it. His problems remained, but something inside him had shifted. He stopped trying to move the whole mountain and focused on one small stone. He opened his mail, made a list of debts, and made a single phone call. The voice on the other end was understanding, and together they found a small solution. That afternoon, he walked the city without headphones, noticing life around him for the first time in ages. He cleaned one corner of his apartment, turning chaos into order. It was hard work, but it left him with a sense of accomplishment. He realized change didn't have to be dramatic. One small act could shift the tide. He had moved one stone. It was a start. Sometimes, that's all you need. Progress begins with a single step. One small stone became two, then three. Daniel rebuilt his life through small, consistent actions. He woke up early, set 3 simple goals, and took control of his days. He faced his finances, created a budget, and made sacrifices. Each step, however small, restored a bit of power. He started saving, even if it was just a few dollars. Discipline became self-respect. He exercised to clear his mind, building resilience in body and spirit. He enrolled in a free online course, dedicating an hour each night to learning. Progress was slow, but each new skill was a brick in his new foundation. He proved to himself he could still grow. His story wasn't over. He was building something stronger, one day at a time. The foundation was his own belief. Progress isn't linear. It's a slow climb with slips and setbacks. Old habits and fears resurfaced, tempting Daniel to give up. But now he had proof of progress. Phone calls made, corners cleaned, miles run. He learned patience, accepting bad days as part of the process. Small changes compounded. More energy, clearer mind, new skills at work. His boss noticed, colleagues saw a new focus. When a junior colleague asked for advice, Daniel realized he had something valuable to offer. He started letting people back in, answering texts, meeting for coffee, being honest. Vulnerability became a bridge, not a weakness. He found empathy and respect, not pity. He wasn't as alone as he'd thought. The climb was slow, but he was moving upward. Each step forward mattered. There was no single moment of triumph, no finish line. One evening, Daniel sat in his car, not to hide, but to breathe. The crushing weight was gone, replaced by a quiet peace. He looked back with compassion, not shame, at the man he'd been. Hardship had been a catalyst, forcing him to change and discover his strength. Confidence was built from small promises kept to himself. He learned his worth wasn't defined by his job or bank account, but by his resilience and growth. The scars remained, but they were now reminders of transformation. For the first time in a long time, Daniel felt hope for tomorrow. The view from the mountaintop was worth the climb. Life tests us, strips us bare, and asks what we're made of. Daniel's story is proof that the hardest seasons can be the start of something new. In despair, we find the power to choose. One step, one small change, one belief in a better day. Self-belief is the cornerstone of transformation. It's not about ignoring pain, but facing it and trusting your strength to overcome. If you're in a dark place, remember Daniel, you're not alone. The journey begins with a single step. Move one small stone. Celebrate small victories. Be patient and kind to yourself. Every sunrise is a new invitation. The power to change your story is yours. The toughest seasons lead to the greatest growth. The rest of your story is unwritten. Make it a good one.